This is going to be my final video on the tree series. It took me a while to get around to trees, but this is actually, I'm now appreciating trees with this. Um, is that so if you a lot of times like if you were to I saw something really cool the other day about I was driving in my neighborhood, and I saw a guy. He was he was dressed really cool. I think he might not have had a shirt on. He was dressed really cool, and then he had a girlfriend with him, a lady, a female friend, but she was about like maybe like 10 or 12 paces away from him, and there was a tree stump there, and that tree, it was actually on the same city block as a church. There's a church there, and but there was a tree there that had been severed. It was nothing but a stump, and he squatted, which is like humbling himself, and he put his hand on the tree. It was like a regular day, like a lot of stuff was going on, but as he was putting his hand on that tree, he was communing and also condoling that tree that had been severed. You could imagine maybe the roots are still there and still might have a degree of feeling if you think in the most profound terms. A lot of times when you think about things that are sensitive, like you think about how, okay, so like if someone if someone punched you in the face, right? How much would that hurt? How much that would hurt really bad if someone punched you in the face, right? It's because of the connectivity of your face. That, in other words, in normal senses, that's like the different sensation of our face that allows us to do facial expressions and also feel the environment, like when it's too hot or too cold. But the face is highly connected and is, in that sense, very sensitive. But you might not just appreciate that looking at someone's face, because a face doesn't look greatly sensitive, but it is very sensitive, a person's face. Now you take how connected the earth is in ways that we can understand and can't understand. You take about a tree and then a network of trees. I think we may only have a small fraction of fathoming how deeply connected the plants may be beneath the ground, and the real life might actually be beneath the ground. It certainly comes from the ground. All that we consume on the surface, that we procure on the surface, it had first existed and abided. It wouldn't be possible without what's going on underground. You take something like a military base or establishment. You have what you see on the surface, but according to people like Tashriq Bey, what would have more significance and what has more significance is underground. I did something really cool. I said in this video that I had a celebration that had meaning, and just the type of place I was at is that the top of the place, it's a civilian purpose. It's not anything fancy, but the top of the place is cool. You walk in there, it looks cool from the outside, but the elevators go down. And before I had a victory, I took an elevator ride down. So you're doing real stuff when you're going down in elevators, not up in elevators. But uh but but so yeah, a lot of life is beneath the surface, not the least of which plant life, earth life on the earth. But you think about how connected things like that are. Now, if the entire earth is connected like that in deep ways, very deep ways, how sensitive is that? Way past what we could appreciate as sensitive. If you were to experience the sublime degree of that connectivity, that would be way past anything that you can call ecstasy. Even our words like nirvana, enlightenment, satori, stuff like that. You're more so you're that's like, I think semantics is like playing with words. Even stuff like that, even all my content, all my videos, that's semantics when you're talking about that level of connectivity and feeling, and that level of feeling, that sensation, that experience. Anything with words is semantics at that point at best. That's way past what we can convey speaking normally. The only kind of speaking that would come close to that is like maybe if it's like someone you love, like having their first words or something like that. That might come close to that in terms of words, or when words really mean something. Like we hear so many words in life, but sometimes they really mean something. And so when words really do have meaning, like between lovers or friends, or like when words have real consequence and meanings, yes, words can be as potent as potent when in those conditions. But normally, words that we do like teaching or enunciating, it can maybe can have meaning in how they can be used, but it's not like that level of connectivity is like the earth broadly collectively. Also, had you experienced the pain of that, what type of pain could be experienced at that level of connectivity? It's way past what we can appreciate, way past getting punched in the face. So from that standpoint, that man putting his hand on that tree stump like that, if there had still been some traces of the roots in that system, or even maybe the tree existing after being severed, because some human beings have experienced the sensation of limbs after members were severed, and then so maybe that's because they're in the words of Arthur Avalon, we have different levels of our body. The most crude, that means gross, that means blunt, that means physical, outward, big. That is what we see in one another. And actually, the only reason we can see it is because it's impure. According to Arthur Avalon, also, we can also more so see things that are impure, because were something pure, it wouldn't betray an appearance, and you would look right through it if it were pure, completely congruent. A fancy car is a little bit difficult to conceptualize even as you're looking at it, because it's a little bit more congruent than an ordinary car. So it's difficult to grasp, and it's something. It's more. It's actually more. That's part of what's so outstanding about very fancy cars, is that it's a higher level of engineering, like with the math of the congruence, and it makes it a little bit more difficult to take in at once. You see a simple truck or like a simple car, and you can grasp it at once because it's less congruent, or it's less sophisticated. But something very like high engineering, and it's actually difficult to grasp it at once. And so air affects it differently, but also attention affects it differently, and perception affects it differently. But it's similar with our body, where what you see of us is more so what's impure about us and on the surface, but we have finer levels of what we are that you actually can't perceive, because it's so fine and also true, and it's at different levels. So you could say maybe a severed tree would be like that, where there may be something of the real tree still abiding, even as it's been severed ostensibly on the surface. But when that man was laying his hands like that, that was a very beautiful thing. And I actually pulled over, and I just told him how cool he looked doing that. And that actually might have been, I might have been somewhat wrong for that, because we really shouldn't be pulling over in a car to engage anyone that we didn't know. That could be traumatic for a person. But it was respect between us, and I was just telling him how dope that was, him putting his hand on that tree like that. But if you were to see a person hugging a tree, you might think that you might not appreciate how grateful that is, because if we get our ability for something, our substance from something, we should be grateful. So we really should actually be hugging trees. But I was saying, if you appreciate the development of a human being, some of the most significant developments of human beings are the opposable thumb, what that allows us to do. Walking upright on 2 feet, which may be a function of engaging with trees, because as a person is upright, according to Osho, the blood in the body exists differently, and therefore the quality or the wavelength and the subtlety of thought is affected by the degree of blood in the brain. So standing upright, it helps to actually think. It helps. Some of the thought processes in development are a function of the blood, but also the angle in the standing perpendicular or vertical opposed to horizontal. Then also with that, you have the feet, and I'm saying that our feet and the grounding of our feet may also help with the mental processes in terms of grounding whatever electromagnetic activity is existing in thought processes, what we understand of that and what we don't, and then connecting with the magnetism of the earth, and also affecting the magnetism of the earth with our comings and goings. Sometimes you go to a neighborhood with a reputation, and that neighborhood has a reputation, though things may not be going on there now, or not to the degree of the reputation of it, but some of it might be actually the charges of that environment. What type of things have happened there? What type of foot traffic has been there? What type of vehicle traffic has been there? That history, it might be a part of the charge of the area, and what outcomes are possible somewhere with the inherent charges of the land, part of which being our feet, and part of our incessant migrating, necessitated migrating, might be interacting with the actual magnetism of the earth and the weather patterns to vitalize the weather patterns. Our actual activity might vitalize the weather patterns, also breathing. But that can be appreciated by standing on 2 feet and the sensitivity of the soles of our feet, but that's part of trees. But also us walking, being able to cover the earth walking, is because we could walk long distances, is part of being with the trees, and that's part of how we got rid of some of our fur and regulate our temperature. But all that can be appreciated from trees.